I'm going to demonstrate a way to do a redirect that's a little unusual. This redirect actually cinches the limb and makes a pretty strong limb out of a pretty weak limb. I'll show you this limb in just a minute and you can see for yourself it's not something that would support my weight. What I've started with here is as if I've already thrown a throw line up, pulled a rope up, and I have the short end of the rope and the long end of the rope over the limb. And what I'm going to do next is show you how to set this up from the ground. You can do this in a tree as well, but I'm going to set it up on the ground the first time, and this method uses just one rope. There is another method that uses two ropes, and I'll try to demonstrate it too in another video. Okay, next what I want to do is show you what would happen if I just pull down on this limb with my body weight without any rigging on it. And I'll have to be careful because I could break this limb, but just to show you the flex, and you can see it really coming down. To put this thing together, it starts here. I've got a screw link, a rather large one, because it's got to take some forces, a little bit of bending forces, and I've got an aluminum delta, and its purpose is to keep the rope from going through this. Now this just barely works, but fortunately when you get a knot tied on this delta, there's no way it'll pull through this, and that's going to become important as you'll see. The way I have to set this up is you'll notice I have the short end here and the long end of my rope here. And what I'm going to do is I have to measure where I want this length to go and where I want this length to go. And here's the way I'm going to do that. I'm going to set up about 2 extra feet of rope here and tie a safety knot right here. Now that's my marker knot, and I'm going to pull that up. It's important to tie the safety knot because you need to pull it out or this won't hook up right. That measures the connection point for me. You see this rope left on the ground? Well, I'm going to put this delta right here, and when I pull this rope back down, I'll have about 2 extra feet of rope on the ground, so it minimizes any rope waste as far as length goes. Again, I'm using a screw lock, a delta. I'm going to attach it with a clove hitch. I've toyed around with a number of knots, and it just does what I need it to do here. And again, really all this delta is for is to provide a place for the rope to have a knot that won't pull through the other screw link. So at this point, I open this screw link and I put both of these ropes in it. And you'll notice I'm not doing this with a pull down on this link because you really don't need it, as you'll see when I uninstall it. Alright, I'm just going to pull this up, and there's my safety knot. I'll pull it out. If this were a higher limb, you probably wouldn't reach that safety knot and you'd have to hold the rope and pull it, and it'd pull it out. So here's what we have now, and as you can see, I can even adjust it a little bit from the ground, and I do have the rope cinching the limb, and it's been installed from the ground, and here's about that 2 feet of rope I've got left. Okay, let's see if we can trace this thing from the ground. There's the tail of the rope that I would normally be climbing on. I'm just going to put my weight on it, not actually going to climb on it. And it goes up to this very thin limb. And let me zoom in a little bit here and you probably see, whoa. There's our setup, and you can see the oval link has now shifted positions, and so has the delta, because I now have up pressure on the limb. I haven't secured it yet, but it's there.
So we'll trace this rope on up, and as you can see, it goes up over another limb, which is not all that big in itself. It comes down the trunk, and this is a three-way deal, trunk that is, so it's got 3 main leaders. We're following the rope down, and I'm actually tied to one of the other leaders just to gain a little more angle on the rope. And here's where it's terminated, and I'll show you how it's terminated. This is no more than a cow's hitch. It comes up and is connected with a figure 8 on a bight to a delta. And this is where it may be a little different. Don't worry about the orange rope, the 2 rope strands right now. They're just wrapped around that tree so they won't hang down in the way of the picture. So here's what I want you to see, and this is how it's connected. The length of the cow's tail comes up to the delta, and 2 3-wrap prussics are attached to that delta and to the rope that I'll be putting my weight on. You probably wouldn't need 2, you could probably use 1, but this is the way Bruce Smith on On Rope does. On Rope 1 secures the end of a rope where you don't want knots and you don't want hardware, although this is just climber's weight, so this is not a big deal. I just did it for the practice of it. You certainly don't have to do that. In fact, you could use some other device. What's important here is that whatever you use, you be able to pull down on the rope to preload the limb upward and then capture the progress. So whatever method you'd want to use, for a really big limb, you might want to use some mechanical advantage. I'm not here, I'm just pulling straight 1-to-1. However, if you'll notice, the rope that comes down from the tree through the 2 prussics is looped through the delta. That's so I can pull up on that delta or pull against that delta and have a little leverage. So I'll show you how I'm going to set this up now. I'm allowing a little bit for rope stretch, hitch, give, so not really just pulling the slack out. I'm actually putting some preload on this because I know it's going to move some.
I thought it might be interesting to see how that behaves up there when I put some force on it. So I've got one camera shooting close up, and to give me a little bit of a handhold here, I'm going to put a butterfly hitch in here. That'll give me something to pull on. So I'm going to put my entire weight on this limb, and as you can see, it hardly moved. In fact, if anything, it just moved sideways some. I'll do that one more time. And there you are. So you can see the strength of this is tremendous. The next thing I want to demo is how you get this thing down. It begins by taking the anchor point down. It's important to remove the prussics. And we're going to uninstall it from this end. So what I need to do is pull down on this, and I'm probably going to have a problem here because it takes a lot of force to pull that loose. If it's up really high, you'd need to use a throw bag and a throw line. It's not up really high here, so I'm just going to use a rope. And what I want to do is pull slack in that. So I'm going to throw this over the rope. And what I want to do is get it in this position. Now when I pull, everything comes down. Once it's down where I can get this screw link, it's undone.